So, one of the cool things before I get into this review is I was actually just talking to somebody about this. Um, sorry. I was actually just talking to somebody about this. I did a review of its clone a couple days ago, actually. And somebody said, hey man, step up your game. Get this, get that, whatever. Don't remember who it was. If you see this video, what's up? I'm not taking a shot at you. And I did it because I knew earlier in the day I purchased this. The Jovan musk. I have more of these on the way, but they're not going to be here until next week. So I wanted to prove something. I wanted to not prove something, but like talk about something. You know, I grew up in the 80s, or I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. Tell me one person that grew up in my time frame that did not. And by the way, just to mention this stuff way stronger than that. It's the same scent. That stuff is way watered down. This stuff is for real. Jovan musk. And it's so good. I love this. It's a very nostalgic scent for me. Very nostalgic. And for those of you who grew up in the 80s, explain this to me. Let me ask you a question. Obviously, I don't have Aspen. I do have it, but it's in the mail on the way here. Because it's an 80s scent. It's an 80s powerhouse. And you were born in the 80s, you grew up in the 90s. So we had the Calvin Klein Obsessions, which I have, and the Calvin Klein CK1s, which I have, and, the Tommy Hilfiger, which I have. I don't have Polo Sport, but I'm getting that this week. But did you grow up and not have Jovan musk? Did you grow up and not have Jacquard Noir? Did you grow up and not have Cool Water, which I still wear to this day? Did you grow up and not have some Old Spice? Or like have a family member, grandpa, who maybe wore this Old Spice? This was bottled in the 70s. Or maybe some Brute or some Mitchum, right? Did you grow up and not have those? No, you grew up with these things. Brute, Fabergé. This is a Fabergé bottle. This was bottled in the 80s. Back when Fabergé still owned them. Did you grow up without any of these? Could you tell your story? Your life story? Your story of growing up? Could you tell that without these? Probably not. If you were born in the 80s, probably not. You wore one of these, or you wore all of them. Jovan musk is amongst the ones that I know you wore. Or you at least know what it smells like because you knew somebody who wore it. This was part of growing up. This was part of a time, like an easier time, a time when you were a kid. Your pre-adult life, you know what I'm saying? This is a nostalgia for a lot of people. For me it is. I grew up wearing three things. I didn't wear Jacquard, but I remembered it. I grew up with these. And a little bit of Brute, but that was mostly my uncle's. But me, had you smelled me in the 90s, this is what I was smelling like. I smell like one of these. It's either going to be Old Spice, Cool Water, or Jovan Musk. Or Aspen, but again, I don't have it. It's on the way here, but I don't have it yet. Okay. People who find out why I collect fragrances, y'all might look at this and think, why does he have a whole thing of it? And this isn't even all of them. I still got those to do. Those to do. Okay, and I got more. I got more over there. But why do I collect? Why do I collect this? I did a video on this a couple of weeks ago. It's nostalgia. It's the feeling of... Let me ask you a question. And this is going to count for my Jovan Musk review. Obviously, this motherfucker's going up here. And I'm probably wearing it tomorrow. Think about this. You grew up in the 80s, or you're born in the 80s, you grew up in the 90s. Or even if you were born in the 70s and grew up in the 80s and 90s, y'all can come with us too. Think after school, you get your homework done or whatever. Or think of weekends, actually. Think walking into an arcade with your friends. Think, going down the street and playing basketball with your buddies down the street. Think about how we used to interact as people. Think about how we used to go chill with our boys. We used to, after school, I guarantee you, I'm not the only one up on this page that had a specific meeting spot where you would meet your friends before or after school, like your certain friends. And you know what I'm talking about with your certain friends. Not like every friend could meet you there, but your core friends. Like I'm still friends with two out of the three of them. One of them did me wrong, and we haven't been friends in about 12, 13 years. We haven't talked. Okay. I still think about him from time to time because I grew up with the motherfucker. But we haven't talked in about 12, 13 years. Right around the same time I actually started this YouTube channel. But I still have two friends of mine I'm still friends with to this day that were Ashley and Nicole, that were part of that group of three other friends, me and three other friends. We would always, no joke, we were always together so much that people thought that we were dating. And I don't mean just one of us dating one. I mean, people thought we were in a 4-person relationship. I'm serious. Because of how much we were together. If you were looking for one of us and you found one, you found the other three. Okay? You found all of us. Always at each other's houses. Always at the park. Always at the arcade. Always doing whatever. Wherever one of us was, the other three were right there. And that's just... Dude... actually saved my life one time. Somebody got into a fight with my cousin. He was a blood. They got into a fight with one of my cousins. And I got a bit of a checkered past. I'm not going to get into it. But I'll just say it wasn't... My family's not very well liked by bloods. We'll put it that way. Okay. And that's all we're going to do. But anyway. So... that statement hit a little closer to home than I thought about, because there might be one person that's subscribed to me. And don't worry, I'm not talking bad about you, bro. I love you. But anyway, so one of my actually saved my fucking life. I was about to get jumped by 15 people because I defended my cousin. I helped save my cousin, man. 15 people. And my friend Ashley came through, and let's just say she pulled some strings and made some phone calls and saved my fucking life, dude. No joke. But anyway, and I'm still friends with her. Anyway, but those are the scents that you remember, right? You remember growing up at that time. You remember chilling with your friends. And this is what you smelled like if you were a dude. You smelled like Cool Water, Old Spice, Aspen, Jovan, Musk, or Jacquard Noir. Bringing it to the 90s, and you got your Calvin Kleins and your Tommy Hilfigers and your Polos, or Polo Sport. Not Polo. Polo Green was the 70s. But you smelled like that. That's what you smelled like. It just brings back nostalgia. It brings back good memories. Brings back memories of a simpler time. You know what I'm saying? That's why I collect these. That's why I collect this. Is because when I wear them, I'll obviously, listen, we all know, I'm not going to get through this ever in my entire life. Do you have any idea how much this is? I mean, just this. That 15 ml bottle right there, okay? That's 300 sprays. That 15 ml bottle. The one next to it is 300 sprays. I could wear that one spray every day of the year. I generally do about 4 or 5 with that one. So that bottle wouldn't last me a whole year. But if I did one spray every day of the year, that bottle would last me almost a year. I would go through 2 little bottles, like that size. Obviously I do 4 to 5. Depending on how weak what I'm wearing is. If I wear this one right here, I gotta do 1, 2, 3, 4 all around the neck. And then behind the ears. And then usually somewhere in my hair to keep the scent. So I usually do about 10 with that one because it's weak. But that's why I collect them. That's why I do what I do, is because it tells a story of a lovely lady. Just kidding. It tells a story, you know. A YouTuber that I don't watch much. I don't really like him, but I do watch him sometimes. Says fragrance is an art form. And when I thought about that, because he has his own fragrance, and he was telling stories as to, or telling why his are so expensive, and like what goes into them and stuff. And he even was like, listen, it only takes me about $20 to make a bottle, and I charge $2.50 for it. You know, and he was explaining the work that goes into it, the people you have to pay, the stuff that when you have a clone house like EAD right here. Okay. The clone houses aren't doing the same work that that they're doing, you know, at Cremo. Cremo is actually having a perfumer come in and specifically design and make a recipe for this exact, you know, thing. Now, you see this is bourbon and vanilla. Other than perfumer's alcohol, there's no alcohol in here. There's no bourbon in here. What they do is they take notes from different fruits and stuff like that, and different woods, and they add them all together and they make the bourbon smell. So this smells just like bourbon, but there's no bourbon in here. And people went into the drawing table and they were like, listen, we have to make something that smells like bourbon, and it's got to be accurate, you know, and it has to be, we can't use alcohol, we can't use bourbon to make it, but we have to make it smell like bourbon. So they add everything together that they make, and they found it and they made it, you know. But there are people that like specialize in doing that. This is EAD's version of Paco Rabanne 1 million. Does it smell like 1 million? Yeah, kind of. Did they put the work in to this scent, Prime Gold? that Paco Rabanne put into 1 million? Hell no. No. All they did was reverse engineer it and goes, huh. Alright, so this is what they used. This is the ingredients they used. Let's make something that smells kind of like it, but let's water it down and use cheaper ingredients. That's all they did. And EAD doesn't have a perfumer that works for them. They don't hire people to make this scent. They're a clone house. And they're a good clone house, trust me. I'm not against clones. But they don't. There's a reason why these don't perform the same as a authentic one. It's because they're not supposed to. They reverse engineer it, and then they water it down. So granted, if they didn't make this weaker, would this be a clone of Paco Rabanne? Yes. But they didn't do it the same way Paco Rabanne 1 million. Right? They didn't do the same way Paco Rabanne did 1 million. This Gladiator by Belcam House. Belcam House is another clone house. Did they do the same work that went into this little thing? I don't have a full bottle of it. Paco, this is Invictus. The real Invictus. This is the actual tester for Invictus. This is Gladiator. Does it smell the same? Yeah, it does. It smells the same. Does this last as long? No. No, this lasts much longer than this. Because it's a clone house, you know? Anyway, my point is these guys put a lot of work into what they do. They put a lot of work into what they do. And they tell a story with their fragrances. I respect a good clone. I wear it around the house. I'll wear a clone around the house. I mean, I'm not going to go on a date with this. No. I'm not going to go to work with this. No, I mean, if I'm chilling around the house, yeah. This Perry Ellis right there, I was wearing that 2 days ago. I still smell it on my hoodie. 2 days later. I'm still catching whiffs of it. There you go. There, it's right there. They tell a story. They tell a story in the fragrance, and they tell a story the person wearing the fragrance. And it's your story. You're telling it. It says certain things about you. Do I wear 1 million a lot? No, because 1 million's kind of like the fuckboy cologne. You know what I'm saying? Like the Acquaduccio was. I don't wear them much. 1 million's like that dude that tries to be Rico Suave. You know, and those. If you want to announce yourself before you go into a room, Acquaduccio. 1 million. Yeah, especially 1 million. Or Invictus. You want people to know you're there before you enter the door? Trust me, they'll smell you 10, 15 feet away with Invictus or 1 million. They will. Typically, I'm more of like the bourbon and vanilla, the Azara Wanted, the Cool Water. You know, that's me. More quiet, reserved person. Don't get me wrong. There are certain instances where I'm going to break out the 1 million. Because I want to stand out and be different from everybody else. If I'm on a date or something, I don't want to smell like what her ex-boyfriend smelled like, or what like every other dude that's in the restaurant or wherever we're at. I don't want to smell just like them. I'm going to break something out that's going to be memorable because I want to leave a lasting impression. I don't want to leave the idea that I'm the same as every other dude that's around her. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I would wear something like, not a prime gold. Not prime gold. This is like Dollar Tree. This is really at the Dollar Tree. On the East Coast. Out here, you actually have to like pay to ship it. So they wind up being like $5, $6, $7, which they're still worth it. But I wish they would have these at the Dollar Trees out here, because I would go scoop these up and wear them around the house. But fragrances are something different, man. They say a whole lot about you. And it's said that your first impression is made within the first 10 seconds of somebody knowing you. And I've been told that before. People have known me. Like, my friend Jen told me that the other day. She's like, I knew you were a good dude within the first few seconds of talking to you. And I've always done right by her. People make their mind up about you very quickly. And so you want to be the same as everyone else, or do you want to stand out? Tell your story, man. Tell your story. You got a whole lot to do it with. Later.